a story by Fox Business. Facebook spent $23 million on Mark Zuckerberg's security in 2020. $23 million on security for CEO and founder Mark Zuckerberg in 2020 fiscal year. Social media giant disclosed last week. Facebook spent more than $13.4 million on personal security for Zuck at his residences, and during personal travel. Zuck also received $10 million pre-tax allowance to cover additional security equipment and personnel for his family. The security costs rose slightly compared to 2019, when Facebook spent only $10.4 million, as well as $10 million allowance. Facebook said Zuckerberg is a unique position because negative sentiment regarding our company is directly associated with them. $23 million. What do you think about it?
I don't think it sounds exorbitant at all. Take a look at Mark Zuckerberg. The guy looks frazzled all the time. All the time. I mean, I have never seen a picture of him or a video of him where he looks calm, cool, relaxed.
Yeah.
The number of threats he must be facing are astronomical. If you think about every celebrity is harassed on some level. The biggest ones are stalked and their life's in danger. We just don't know. Sometimes you hear about it, but it's real. And I can only imagine with the controversial stances that Facebook takes, and he is Facebook. He is the face of it. He is the whole thing, as much as one person can be identified with a brand as can possibly be. So I don't think $23 million to protect an investment of $1 trillion is that exorbitant at all. And I'll say this. What did seem high to me when I looked at this story a little bit more in depth is they spent $6 million in security on Sheryl Sandberg. To me, that seems like a hell of a lot of money to be spending on a lower level executive. And if you look at the numbers for other CEOs of tech companies, Jack Dorsey, I think he's on I think it's around $3 million they spend on him. Eric Schmidt was $300K when he was at Google. The CEO of Google, the CEO of Google now, $1.2 million. So. And Tim Cook is pretty low. He's about $800,000 for his annual security, is what Apple said. So, there's just a lot of threats on him, I would imagine. He travels a lot. He has compounds in Hawaii, so there's a lot of travel.
I think a part of it has to be linked to hate it. Like, hate it and most potential future influence. I combine those two together. So, Tim Cook, does he hate it?
No,
not
really.
Does he have future influence of wanting to go out and run for office? I don't know if Tim Cook's going to run for office, right? Okay. You talk about Sheryl Sandberg. Is she hated? Yeah, she's part of Facebook. Is she important? Without Sheryl Sandberg, they're not doing the kind of revenue that they're doing. So she's very powerful on what she changed again when she came from Google and she brought the algorithms to Facebook. I had Kenneth Bombas on. Okay, I don't know if you remember 2.5 months ago. This guy's a bodyguard, executive protection is what they do. And the company's called Global Threat Solutions, right? And he and I were speaking. I said, let me ask you a question. He's represented Clinton, presidents, billionaires, a bunch of different people that he's represented, okay? I asked him, what is the life? I don't know if you guys remember when we talk about the fact that the bodyguards actually don't know how to fight. They know how to run. Great bodyguards and executive protection guys are great runners. They don't fight you. They hit and run is what they do. They don't sit there and say, hey, you want to fight? They're not looking for 8th-degree black belt. They're looking for a guy that can know how to leave the building the fastest. That's their specialty. Pretty interesting when you think about them.
And take their subject with them.
So you want a skinny, small executive protection guy that knows how to fight, defend, and leave is what they want to do.
We all saw The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner.
There you go. Okay, so pretty much visualize that versus the 6'8", 300. Yeah. That's not executive. That's
like
just
the rapper's
show.
bodyguard.
That's a show. That's a show.
Like who Floyd
So
Mayweather
I asked him. I
runs
said, let me ask you a question. If I want to get bodyguard, I want to get your service, how much is it going to cost him? He says, what are you looking for? I said, what if I want to have a couple people full-time at my house all the time, one in the front, one in the back? He says, well, you have to realize that's 3 a day. So what do you mean it's 3 a day?
Shifts.
He says, it's shifts. It's 8 hours. He says, it's not only 3 a day. They can only work 5 days. So you really have 3 a day. So that's 3 times 3 is what? That's 3 times 2 is 6. He says, then 6 you got to add 3 more because the days they're off, they're working. So you add 9 is what you got. Let's just say, so you do the math. So the additional 2 days is additional. So that's 12 is what you're dealing with, okay? And he said camera, everything to be there, full protection, travel, all that. He says you're looking at about $3.5 million a year.
Whoa.
Yeah. He says that's about 3.5. I said, what'd you say? He says $3.5 million a year. I said 3.5. He says, yep. He says you got to calculate around a thou a day for a real good one. So a thou a day times 3 times he's doing the whole calculation. You're looking at $2.5 to $3.5 million a year.
Yeah.
So if regular billionaires are getting $2 million to $3.5 million for bodyguard service for something like this. $32 million for Zuck, $23 million for Zuck. I think it's a deal. I think it's a steal.
And that's also if you only have one bodyguard at a time.
We can't hear you. Raise this volume, please. I can barely hear him. Go ahead.
That's only if you have one bodyguard at a time.
Yep.
Like 3 throughout
That's
the
right.
day.
Yeah.
So now imagine you have 2 or 3, and like one of them is a driver automatically.
Now you're traveling, jet,
Exactly.
car, restaurant.
plus.
It's constantly.
And then also a
Yeah.
big thing that was in the story is that last year, what happened last year? Pretty controversial year in many ways. It's election year. Imagine the money that gets spent on Facebook to sway ads either way. And him, I mean, he was probably one of the biggest one in the hot seat for things that they allowed, things that they fact-checked, this, that, and the other. So, I mean, it makes sense that it goes up.
By the way, they voted Bo Jackson as a better athlete.
Wow.
But
Bo
go ahead.
Jackson.
Go ahead,
That's what I thought so. Well, anyway, this 20. We got some stats for you. On Mark Zuckerberg. Comes out to $2 million a month, about $65,000 a day. But you talked about being a controversial figure and how much it's all cost and approval made. Obviously he's worth over $100 billion at this point. Let's just talk about favorable and unfavorable ratings. Facebook's favorable rating, 43%. Unfavorable rating, 47%. Okay, so more.
I'm
unfavorable.
surprised it's not higher.
Unfavorable, right?
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not higher.
Let me keep going. Mark Zuckerberg's favorable rating, 20%. Unfavorable, 56%. To put it in perspective, Trump's favorable rating was 40%, 56% unfavorable. Keep going. Zuck, does he have too much power? 73% say yes. 41% say that Zuck should resign. The only CEO in the country, the only tech CEO in the country that has an actual positive net approval rating is your friend Tim Cook, 23% favorable, 18% unfavorable.
Yeah.
Just a couple more stats for you. Does Facebook have too much power? 69% said yes. And then last stat, does 57% believe Facebook is primarily a harm to society, and 71% believe the company prioritizes profits even if it causes societal harm.
If you
ratings
if
for
you
our
got the
friend
quote
Zuck.
of $3 million for yourself, these other guys are lying. Jack Dorsey's their numbers, they're lying.
What did Jack Dorsey say?
They said it was like they're lying.
No,
I know.
79,000. You're out of your mind.
I know, and literally that's what they said
Yeah.
for Eric Schmidt, $300K and 1.2 million.
Well, the only reason why I would believe is 79,000 is if you live in the office and you never leave, and you have to count the company's security as personal security.
right.
You have to have security.
Exactly.
The amount of money they invested in Twitter security in the building, you know how much money they probably put into security cameras, key cards, all of that? You know how much that costs?
Yeah.
That's a massive ticket right there. So, no, I don't think he's spending $79,000 in 2016.
Well, we just learned that people really, really don't like Zuck, and they really don't like Facebook. But so Zuck, the human robot.
Well, why though? Think about why. Here's what I want you to think about. We just talked about The Rock running because he's got 220 million Instagram followers.
Mm-hmm.
Zuck running, he's got 2.5 billion followers.
Yeah.
If Zuck is the only guy, if you think about that, if he runs, he can be the new world order leader. If you actually think about it, because he's got global influence.
Don't give him any ideas.
Is what Zuck's got.
Interesting. You did the interview with Metakoven.
Yep.
He said that these tech companies
Virtual
are
governments.
virtual governments.
Yep.
That was a pretty profound statement right there.
They're becoming virtual governments is what they're becoming. So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.